Yeah, that's an important question to talk about, I think.
Okay, Annalisa, it's lovely to
Yeah.
talk to you, and we're on part 2 now. And
Right.
in this section, what it'd be lovely to do is talk about this sense of absolution, where we've all confronted things inside us. We found different ways of working with the situation, in our flexibility, but also in our buoyancy. And the solution, as you put it just now, is in an ongoing process that has a flux and a change.
Yeah.
And that seems to be for you the path that is developing and evolving. And I would say that I would agree with that completely. We all have gone through a journey of finding what works for us and what doesn't work. And so thank you for sharing that. And the other thing we want to talk about is how people have dealt with it in, outside. You've got a special way of dealing with it. How else is everyone dealing with it in Northern Italy? In the art world and in happenings? How are they moving their physical practice online or not? How are they dealing with things?
Okay, so I must tell you that in Italy we have had it very tough.
Yeah, we have had a lot of news about Italy, and and we have been very worried about it. Our hearts have been with you, actually.
It was like a kind of a nightmare. All of a sudden, in 1 week, from one case, it started 200, and so it was really something like being in a kind of horror film. So it was at first it was very difficult to deal with that, because on one hand I heard the news, as you heard the news from Italy, and I'm Italian.
Well, I have to say we haven't had news from a lot of countries, and there's many countries we're worried about, and the news just, as we went into the full lockdown, journalists weren't allowed out, and I'm disappointed that there wasn't more online stuff, and I feel on a journalist level there was something missing, because what is it to connect with someone in China and just say, well, what's it like really there? It's I felt
no, but on one hand it was really a kind of numbers and things. I reached these numbers all of a sudden from one day to the other, like a nightmare, and I was part of the nightmare, and at the same time I was in my beautiful nest. So it was weird. It was very weird, because on one hand I was in my ideal place, and I heard that people were dying, that all of a sudden we were in a kind of war, that we were in a kind of an horror film, and everything started being blocked. So the school was blocked, and that the house was blocked, and everything was blocked. So it was very, very weird, a kind of I don't know, modernist romance or novel, becoming like Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, a dystopia, the dystopia, the utopia.
I mean, all those apocalyptic films, all the virus ones and the destruction ones all seem to like have their space, and we're like, okay, it's apocalyptic time now.
They came true all of a sudden.
There was a lot of glimpses into them, definitely.
Yeah, and so that was the sensation. And after 1 week, of course, artists, curators, museums started dealing with that. And many of them started doing also small talks or small projects and being propositive about that. But I was so up and down and upside down that I had a kind of, I felt a kind of disturb whenever I was invited to a project. I was invited to, even I have to send a simple picture to a friend of mine who simply asked me to send an image of Annalisa as an artist with a mask. It was not difficult to do that, to do a selfie. I'm a selfie addicted. I don't know how many thousand selfies I have, but after 2 months, I wasn't able to put myself under the phone to do this selfie. I felt a kind of disturbance for everything which was connected with creativity and the tragedy. So I need the distance, and it has always also been theorized that an artist needs a distance, but I didn't do that as an exercise of style, Amanda. I did that because I didn't feel like participating, They also, other friends of mine Nicola and Antonella Mocellini with a gallery from Milan. They did a wonderful project with self-projecting life. And everyone should send a project how they dealt with a possible creative project in housing, in-house. So many people imagine a performance or to deal with objects or to deal with furniture. I must tell you, Amanda, that I couldn't deal with that. And I found the idea now that they closed the lockdown, and probably I'm sending the idea. So many people did very good things in terms of projects and in terms of conferences. There was this forum of contemporary art, but as I told you before, the title of my table was interesting. It was how to cure. But since I was asked to be part of this table where to share contents and where to share experiences, and so I was dealing with the cure, denying the word cure, because in my opinion, our world nowadays, we are so limited that human beings can't be cured. They can't simply be
you
healed.
say that because Italian language has a lot of language. It has a lot of words, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So there should be all these descriptions, but what you're saying is there wasn't the words.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we have to start thinking that on one hand, as human beings, we are not simply reason and emotion, but reason and emotion are the same. So we tend too much to separate what is reason and what is emotion. But at the end of the day, reason, we are not rational, completely rational. We are a kind of machine with rationality and emotion, judgment. It's all part of the same engine. And what we are losing is language. We are losing language so much. And losing language, we are losing humanity. And
that's interesting. I mean, I had a different perspective because I saw people. I think I was I guess I'm not so connected to, like, it took a while for me maybe it took me a while to get connected to the bigger galleries and talks and things. And when I did hear them, I found them sort of making certain people buoyant and nurturing their kind of genesis. And I did see it more as a space where people were saying their views, and rather than being creative, there were people like, yeah, let's do a project on windows. Let's give artists that are living in one house a camera for them to take shots of people and in interesting ways. But all these projects seem to be without any substance. And actually, I really got to a space where I felt the creativity had lost its meaning. People were being expressive for the sake of expression.
Exactly.
And I think that's what you're saying with the mask. It's like, why? Like, we can all see ourselves wearing a mask, and we can all do our selfie, and we can all post it. Where's the meaning in doing more of that, you know?
Because before doing something, let's deal with that, you know. And that's another thing we started a group as a feminist group with curators and artists. Before coronavirus, I did a meeting at Novella Guerra that was let's spend the night together, and that was not only Rolling Stones, but it was also let's have a pajama party together, an impossible pajama party at my place. So let's talk about something serious during a pajama party, inviting 80 people, Amanda, 80 people from all over Italy. And if all 80 people would have come, I don't know where I could have put them. But 24 of them answered positively. And they arrived here. And, you know, my place is big, but not as big as 30 people to put around. But it was amazing that a good group arrived from Milan, from Turin, from Genoa, from Florence, just to spend 5 hours together in the middle of nowhere at night, in a kind of underestimated situation, to do a pajama party. And so in one way it was a metaphor in order to say, let's meet because we really want it. We are going to make a sacrifice. We
Well,
take
it's
the
interesting, the symbolic value, because then everyone went into 2 months of, some people chose the pajama route of not getting dressed and wearing their most comfortable clothes, and the pajama party ended up being a 2-month-long experience, but the conversation had to be on Skype or Zoom or whatever other application one was interested in.
I didn't think about that, but you're right. So it was like a prophecy, you know, and I was so proud that, for example, Francesca Pasini, she's a great curator in Milan. She came just for the sake of it, that for 12 hours from Milan, making sacrifice. And another one, she came for 6 hours.
I think Italy is quite amazing, though, in the way that there is that understanding of being creative for the sake of creativity and having relationships for the sake of relationships, because of realizing that the relationships are the inspiration. It's not the objects. And we've talked about this 100 times, you and me, and we always come back to this same point, that it's about the relationships that is important, not the objects. However, the objects are an amazing expression of what comes through those relationships, whether it be through a curator, a dealer, a artist, or a collaborator, a talker, a writer, anything in the creative process.
This is our luxury, you know.
That meaning.
Yeah, this is our luxury. So, in my opinion, I'm very, so under this aspect, I'm very posh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can give me a price, because the price is the substance, and I don't want to be an orator or a priest, but what makes me feel better is to feel truly that people are there for a reason, to share things, to share humanity. I want I don't know, the sacred cup, my sacred cup,
the Holy Grail. So if you were to sum this conversation up, so we can sort of bring it into some words, how would you say meaning is created through the Holy Grail? What's the content of the Holy Grail?
The content is to fill the Holy Grail with the sense of art, and the art can change the world while changing while giving back at the moment, because anytime you have a new answer, but now the answer is giving back to humanity a language, because
a language
if you have language, you can have a concept.
People responsive.
Because if you start using words and sentences and arguments and argumentation just for the sake of it, so you can do so much bad. You know, we have to take responsibility in the words we use, in the words we create. For example, I give you an example which can be also political, Amanda, but I don't want to get kitsch. But in Italy, people who come from abroad, foreigners who come here to look for work, to look for a job, from Africa, from all over the world, sorry, they are called extra-communitarian. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
In English, it doesn't exist, the word.
Well, no, it doesn't. It's not used anyway. It exists, but it's not used. Yeah.
Because that's not simply a word.
It's not a union. It's about marginalizing someone, expelling them. It's about them not being a part of something, yet they could be standing right in front of you.
Yeah.
And if they're standing right in front of you, by God, they are a part of something.
Yeah. I define you, denying you, as if you would ask me, what's your name? I am not Amanda. No, I am Annalisa.
Yeah, it's the problem of immigration and migration. It's terrible. I have really strong feelings about that. I could talk about an hour about it.
Yeah.
But for now,
in any case, there are problems connected, pro and contrast. Things have to be planned. Things have to be organized. But it's a question of language as well. So in my opinion, at the moment, we have to rebuild language. And that's a very important point. That was the point of the feminist movement. That was the point of the communist movement. I don't want to copy anything. It's simply that language creates ourselves. So it's not political.
So let's go with that. That language creates ourselves. Let's use that as the line.
Yeah, that's the line.
Thank you,
so
Annalisa.
If I should fill the Holy Grail somehow, or find the Holy Grail.
Language creates itself and
Yeah,
ourselves.
and finding a language we can share. Which has to do with the different foreign languages, but also the different way we communicate.
And the different ways to, it's like you were talking about cure, is to bring content to language, that language is not with empty words, it is with intention and meaning. And that happens through our relationships. It happens to those people that are inspired and want to relate in an inspirational way, and to bring inspiration from different aspects and aspirations. So,
and also, Amanda, another thing I feel the need of is to overcome the dogmatism of truth, you know. We are in the postmodern society, and so on and so on. But at the same time, I feel the need of overcoming the relativism, because on one hand, we have to overcome the dogmatism that postmodern overcame. So everything is relative, everything has to be respected, everything has to be taken into account.
I think,
but after 30 years of relativism, this general respect is no respect for anything.
Yeah, so, I think that's another discussion that we may go into about truth, because I mean, it's a foundation. We have to know what we mean when we talk in that philosophical language of what truth is to us. And it's really, you know, it comes down to being outside the head and being in an essence of something bigger than ourselves. But how do we put that in language that people understand without it all turning back into the illusions and the losing its foundation, you know?
In my opinion, Amanda, it can be very easy. We simply have to take back the sense of community. Sense of community, which is simply founding back the sense and the warmth and the feeling of what my grandmother, Maria, and not only Rina, you met Rina, but you didn't meet Maria. They used to tell us about their past experience. That, well, you know, at night, in many evenings, when it was summer, we used to meet the neighbors outside the front door on the village. And we used to talk together, and we called that a treb. A treb, it was a dialect word. It means I host you. I host you.
Nice.
I host you, and we discussed together. And it was not chatting behind someone, or it was simply talking together about everything.
Chat that is constructive.
Yeah, constructive. It was not the bar,
but it's like pottering in conversation.
Yeah, and it
There's
was not
intimacy there. Yeah,
exactly.
But it's not in the shadow. It's in the light. Yeah.
Exactly. It was not the pub. It was not the bar. It was not the conference. It was a familiar way, full of warmth, full of esteem. Sometimes maybe some chatting, and also something which had to do with salt and pepper, whatever you want. But it was something in order to re-elaborate or to mourn if the situation it was a tragedy. But it was to share. And from there, you started sharing a language, sharing values, sharing goals, and sharing utopias, sharing desires.
And then when you have the vision and you share and integrate the vision, you're all on the same page.
Exactly. And this is my
you have a huge community development.
And this is my answer to the virus itself.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
The virus wants small groups.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't want.
It's very effective to have small groups. Yeah.
We have to take that into account. So small groups can be an opportunity if you rediscover them, because it's going into deep.
Yeah.
So you can't, me, for example, I have 5,000 friends on Facebook. And I must tell you, Amanda, that I know lots of them. It's not the typical 1,000 friends among whom I only know 20 of them. I know lots of them. But while I was studying, I read that your brain can register 150 at a time. You can't cope with or deal with the 3,000 people. So I don't
Absolutely.
want to deny social networks, and so I always teach social media marketing, you know, and so it's an opportunity. It's great. It has positive and negative aspects, but we have also to rediscover humanity. So we are not machines. We are not machines, and so we have to rediscover the small groups. To rediscover, even though these words are heavy, we have to say hierarchies are important in terms of making hierarchies of values.
You're saying
So,
hierarchies, just so that
hierarchies. So in terms of, I have to go into deep with these friends. I have to talk more. Small groups. So small groups is the answer.
Well, I think it's always about mutual respect. If someone levels with you, and you can be in any position in a company or in an organization, as long as you give each other mutual respect and understand each other's position without dominating in a way that is from ego, but from the heart, you know, you're acting from a different position, you can always, you know, move through the complications of politics and dominance and power struggles.
But I wanted also to stress, Amanda,
has to have mutual respect.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But when I say we have to make hierarchies, how do you say that? Hierarchies. It's not a question of also rediscovering the roles, because I'm not ashamed of saying that rediscovering the roles is important, because it's a guarantee. It can be a guarantee. It can be a form of bullyism if you under certain aspect, but it's a form of guarantee as well. But in my opinion, it is important to make steps of values also, because we tend, in order to be very democratic, to say, I treat all my friends the same. No. So I have to concentrate on some relationships and go into deep, on some contents and go into deep. I felt myself in the past 10 years going too much general, too global. So, you know, I had to be part of everything, and I'm asking myself, was I part of everything, or was that simply a pretext not to be part of anything?
I mean, I think that's another thing. We have to close this conversation now, but about lockdown is realizing that you need very, as you say, very basic structure to your community and communications to be able to construct a sense of energy around language and values and drive and development. It's not the global community. We're after intimate relationships that are very inspiring and have very good values to them of care and nurture and development and inspiration kind of thing. But so I think, thank you. I think you make a great point. So thank you so much, Annalisa. We're going to close this part of the conversation now, and we'll pick up in a bit.